I do think adversity really is a catalyst to, like deep adversity is a catalyst to success.
Welcome to the Spartan Up podcast with Joe Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Race.
We are talking about overcoming obstacles. The same way we teach people to get over obstacles on the course, we will teach you here on the Spartan Up podcast to get over obstacles in your mind.
This episode of the Spartan Up podcast is brought to you by IntelliAgree. Think that the contract signature is the most important part of a contract? Think again. IntelliAgree automates the most costly, painful parts of the contracting process, trusted by companies like Spartan to take their business to the finish line. Visit IntelliAgree.com to schedule your free demo today.
Joe Sena here, CEO and founder of Spartan and the Spartan Up podcast. I got a good old buddy of mine from New York City, Michael Chernow, the meatball king, but he's much more than meatballs. We're gonna dive into this guy's psyche. What else are we gonna dive into? Your new business.
You know what I really want to talk about, though?
What? Oh yeah, we got to talk about sardines.
Got to talk about sardines. Big part of my life now.
We got to talk about
but
sardines.
We also need to talk about this because this is obviously very important.
Yeah.
Creatures of habit. But I think really, it's so funny. You introduced me to a guy the other day, this guy, Richard. And you said, just connect with this guy. I called you up about something. And I spoke to Richard and, I said, Joe and I happen to be cut from very similar, if not the same fabric. And Richard said, for the greater good of the world, I hope whoever made that fabric crumbled it up and threw it into the garbage after you guys were cut out of it.
That makes sense that Richard would say that.
It was very funny.
For those of you that don't know, well, here's the crazy thing. Michael and I, as we've gotten to know each other, it turns out we have very similar friends. Like we have some of the same friends for decades, but we didn't know they were close friends. Dr. Bishi, right? Marcus, right?
Yep.
From Juice Press. So anyway, let's get into. You're from New York. Grew up in the city.
I did. Grew up in Manhattan.
Easy, right? Easy to grow up in Manhattan.
It's very interesting. I love the fact that I grew up in New York City. I believe that I learned an enormous amount about what not to do by growing up in New York City, and a lot about what to do. And it's kind of like 50-50. I always thought that I was going to raise my kids in the city because I really do love New York with all my heart. I love New York City with all my heart. I don't live there right now. We moved about 2.5 hours north in the beginning of the old global pandemico. But, we made a conscious decision to take the kids out of the city when all that was going down. And now living in upstate New York and seeing my children absolutely love being outside all day long and now unsupervised on like a big property and, swimming in ponds and fishing and catching frogs and lizards and camping and making fires and cutting themselves with like with little pocket knives. And like that shit doesn't happen in New York City. So the stuff that you and I grew up with, the street stuff, is going to be something I am going to have to figure out a way to implement as a parent, because I really do believe that ability to acclimate, I think one thing that New York, if not the greatest thing that New York has given me, is the ability to acclimate into any environment. You can put me in South Central LA or Skid Row, and at the White House, and I am going to make friends wherever I go. And I believe that that's a byproduct of the streets of New York.
It's interesting though. Like, so I'm probably 14 years ahead of you on the children front, and so I reflect back. I know you're at the beginning of the journey, and I definitely feel like we missed the city thing because we did the farm. The kids were born on a farm in Vermont, and we did the frogs and the lizards and the ponds and everything you're talking about, and skiing and sledding was their thing, and the Four Seasons, but they didn't have the city smarts, the ability to assimilate, acclimate, like you said. And part of that's gone for good because when you and I grew up, we weren't staring at our phones 24/7 as kids. And so even if they were in the city, the kids, I have lots of family friends down there with children that it's not like when you and I were kids. If that makes sense.
True. That's true.
That's
true.
So
there was no sitting on a park bench for 6 hours playing video games on our phones or being caught in like a YouTube hole. It was really, you were out, like when you were in the street, you were out, doing things. Probably not the greatest things, but definitely more productive than technology. That's for sure.
No, it's funny you bring it up because a friend of mine said, for any parents out there listening, like the best thing you can give your kid is boredom. Get your kid as bored as possible. Because you remember when we were kids, if you got bored, you went outside, you rang some doorbells, you got friends to play football, you built a fort, you did something because the last thing you wanted to do as a kid was be bored. But now there's no boredom because there's, like you said, YouTube holes and Instagram holes, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so now folks know how to properly parent. You got to have a little bit of country, a little bit of city, and no phone.
So I'll tell you this, and then we can move on to the next subject. But, our kids go to this school where technology is forbidden. It's forbidden. They literally, when we signed up our kids to this school, they took us on a walkabout. The teachers took my wife and I on like a 4-mile walk. And the vast majority of that conversation was talking about how they school, but also the deep, deep passion they have for creativity and zero technology. And so, though we're not perfect, our children never touch a phone, never touch an iPad, and only are allowed to watch TV or movies, on a Friday night or a Saturday, but never on a school night. And watching my kids, they're never bored. It's amazing. I'm so envious of them because all they do, my two boys, is they draw, they play with their action figures, they play with their lightsabers, they tell each other stories. I mean, it's just amazing. I'm like, they're on to something at this school, so it's really polarizing for me because I will have to pull myself away from this thing on a Saturday where like me, like a lot of people we're like, this thing is danger zone. It's very, very addicting.
Beyond very addictive. Yeah. And you'll see as they get older, it's going to slip into their life and you're going to regret the moment that happens. But anyway, I love the fact that you're on the phone. All right. So you and I, the first time I met you was at a meatball shop. Tell us about the meatball shops.
The meatball shop is a business. It was my first business. I was 28. I had been working in hospitality in the restaurant business since I was 12. This was the first place that it's actually a really funny story. So I had thought entrepreneurially from a very young age. And when I was 12 years old, and this is when rollerblades were cool in 1992. I was delivering videos for Couch Potato Video on rollerblades. And a buddy of mine, who was a year older than me, was answering phones at this vegan restaurant on 76th Street and 3rd Avenue called the Candle Cafe. And he said, while you're delivering videos, you should deliver food for Candle Cafe too. And I was like, awesome. So I did that. So I was at Couch Potato, and I ping pong back and forth between Couch Potato, Video. This is also when VHS was the thing. Couch Potato, Video, and Candle Cafe. And then I came up with a really great idea when I was 13 to add weed into the mix. So I was delivering videos, food, and weed. And I always had weed on me. And so if I saw the right person, this is where the New York City acclimation piece comes in. I would read the customer and I'd be like, hey, and also, by the way, I've got weed. And I was hustling hard. It was amazing. But ultimately, I ended up falling in love with the restaurant business, working in restaurants all through high school, and all the way through until a few years ago when I took a step out of the restaurant biz. But I opened up a restaurant in February 9th of 2010. So Meatball Shop will be celebrating its 13th year in a few weeks here. And it was because I had worked at this Italian restaurant for 8 years. And I worked every position in that restaurant. I really, really cut my teeth there and loved the place. And I knew that everybody loved the meatballs. And so they had this dish on the menu called the rigatoni ragu. It was a rigatoni pasta with meatballs and sausage with the best red sauce you've ever had in your life. And what I used to do for family meal, especially when I got more into the wellness arena, which I'm sure we'll touch on, I would order at like 11 o'clock at night a bowl of the rigatoni ragu, sans the rigatoni. So I would say, just give me the meatballs, give me the sausage, give me the tomato sauce, give me a side of broccoli, a side of spinach, and a beet salad. And that was sort of my dinner. So I would have this bowl, meatballs, bunch of different sides. And that was ultimately the beginning of developing the Meatball Shop. And I knew that at a certain point, I'd gone to culinary school, then I got a degree in restaurant management. I was 26 when I graduated. I was working my ass off. And I said, I'm ready to step out and do my own thing. So I spent a year working on a business plan, and I wanted to do this meatball thing. I brought in my childhood best friend, Dan Holzman, to be the chef of the business and my partner. And I wrote the business plan. I put it in front of every regular at Frank, and 14 of those guys wrote me a $25,000 check. And I put in $20,000 of my life savings at the time. And we opened up the Meatball Shop, and it crushed, absolutely crushed. It's a very simple idea. Bunch of different kinds of meatballs, bunch of different sides, and it just took off. We opened up in the Lower East Side, and that was the beginning of my career, my real career as a restaurateur and entrepreneur.
But even through all that, and that's an awesome story, you were into fitness. How'd you get the bug in fitness? Because here you are dealing drugs along with VHS videotapes.
So from the ages of 12 till 23, I lived on the darker side of the street. I had moved out of my parents' house when I was 15. I had a really tough upbringing at home. My dad was very, very tough. And so he and I really didn't see eye to eye, and it was violent and aggressive and abusive. And it was like a very unsafe place for me from a kid. And so the child services got involved. It got real hairy and ugly. At 15, I took it upon myself to run away and not get put into foster care. And so I left, and I was, on the street, really on the street, sleeping at people's houses, NYU dorms, really bouncing around. But I stayed in school somehow, some way. I stayed in school, but I dove deep into the world of the night. I was drinking, I was using drugs. I spent a long time there for at least a decade. Then when I was 23, it was like a do or die decision for me. I had overdosed, and I knew that it was like I was at the end of my rope, and I had a lot of people that I actually loved who I thought I had lost complete ties with, basically being like, yo, man, you're going to die. You got to stop this lifestyle. It's so sad to watch you do this. And one night I'd been up for a few days, and it was August of 2004. It was a hot New York City summer. And I wanted to die. I really did. I hated myself. I really wanted to die. And I slept. I thought I was going to kill myself that night because I was really, really miserable. And somehow I passed out. and I'd slept through work. My boss had basically was one of the people that loved me. And he said, I love you, dude. I'm not going to watch you kill yourself. You're fired. You can't do this anymore on my watch. And then I begged him for my job back because it was like literally all I had left. And he said, you can get sober. You can show up to the restaurant at 8:00 in the morning and clean with the porters. You can call me when you get here. If you call me a minute past 8, you're fired. If I find out you have a single sip of alcohol or a single any kind of drug, you're fired. And that was the beginning of my journey into the world in which I live now, which is beyond and wildest dreams. You know, really, I never thought that I'd be able to have the shit and do the shit that I've done. And it all started, I replaced all the bad habits that I had with good ones in fitness and nutrition and mindset. And that's how it started.
You think about your kids. I think about my kids when I hear that story. Do you think everybody's got to go through that a little bit, or is it avoidable?
I believe that adversity and challenge and sometimes even rock bottom really is valuable. I don't regret a single second of my story. I wouldn't wish it on my children, that's for sure. But I do think that some level of suffering in a real way does propel and produce some of the greatest performers. And it doesn't have to come through my journey, but I do believe that you can, if you try hard enough. And for me, that period of time, what I was trying to do was learn to give and receive love. I was in a deep pursuit for love. I didn't understand it. I wanted it really bad, and I thought I had found it in the drugs and the alcohol and the people that surrounded that environment. And ultimately, I was wrong, right? But I had to go through that to get to where I'm at today. I really don't believe that I would be where I'm at today had I not experienced that shit. I don't think that that is a pathway to success for anyone. However, I know a lot of people who have become very successful friends of ours that had to go through that or that went through that. I do think adversity really is a catalyst to, like deep adversity is a catalyst to success. And your business, Spartan, right? Like it's a mini version of that, right? You're saying to the people that participate in a Spartan race, hey, like you want to feel really, really good. We're going to put you through some pain. And you're going to agree to do it, and you're going to get through it because we're going to help you get through it. And once you're done with it, you're going to feel like $1 bazillion. And that is essentially a very, abbreviated version of what I went through.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically like listening to you, I'm thinking we should run a tagline at Spartan that says, let us help you reach rock bottom. Because for a lot of people, climbing a mountain, carrying a sandbag, right? They feel as bad as you did that night. And that's the impetus for change. How do we keep our kids out of that stuff?
Well, I think so. I mean, if I was playing the tape back and understanding what propelled me to want to take that route, it was really a desperate cry for love. I really wanted to be appreciated. I really wanted to be accepted. I really wanted people to like me. And I hated myself from a very young age because I didn't get the love from where children really need to receive it at home. And so I don't spoil my kids. I don't shower them with presents, even though I can, and I'm sure you can, right? Like, I mean, I can come home with a present every day if I wanted to, 5 of them, but I know that that's not what it is. I tell my kids every day that I love them multiple times. And I have something that I do with my sons, which I think would be kind of cool to share here every night is, well, not every night, because my wife and I switch on and off putting the kids down. But when I put the kids down, and this is something I've been doing since they were born, it's very, very structured, similar to everything else in my life. Basically, we go upstairs at 7:15 on the dot. We brush our teeth. I do a teeth brushing competition with them. So I basically battle them against each other, and I give them 60 seconds to get after their toothbrushing commitment. And they brush their teeth really fast, and then I choose a winner. And then they piss, and then I take them into their room, and I put on the white noise machine low. I read them 2 books. Right after we're done with 2 books, I give them a hug and a kiss. They crawl into their beds, and I say, all right, boys, give me the 12. And these are the 12 things that these are the 12 values that I believe are life-shaping values for young boys. And it goes like this, and they both say them one after the other. Always protect my brother. Ladies always go first. Squeeze and eyes, which is basically when you give a handshake, you make eye contact and you squeeze. Remember people's names. Lift up the toilet seat when you have to go to the bathroom. Put down the toilet seat when you're done. Look to the left when you're crossing the road. Look to the right when you're crossing the road. Be kind to mommy when daddy's away. Kindness always wins. Always have courage. And I love you. And typically Finn will say it first. Then Dakota will say it. They have it memorized. And then I say, hey, boys, you can be anything you want to be when you grow up. Doesn't mean you're going to win at everything. But your dad's always going to support you as long as you do it for yourself and nobody else. And what's it going to take? And then they say courage. My little one says courage, courage, courage. And then I say, what is courage? And they say being scared and doing it anyway, as long as it's for the good. And then I go, I sing them a song, and I sit with them for about 10 minutes. I do like a little meditation stretch while they're passing out, and then I leave. And we do that every night. I'm very passionate about it. I want my children to know that I love them, and I want to give them values that I believe in wholeheartedly. And you might think it's funny to lift up the toilet seat and put it down when you're done, but I promise you that's a big thing, right? It's a big thing. Like, there's nothing worse than walking into the bathroom or my wife walking into the bathroom and having the toilet seat pissed on. No good. So yeah, that's what we do with the boys. And I believe it instills love and value.
What is IntelliAgree, and how will it help you run your business? IntelliAgree is an end-to-end contract lifecycle management platform powered by machine learning and AI. It speeds up the contract negotiation process by extracting and analyzing the clauses that matter most to you. You can create contracts quickly and route them to the right people at the right time with IntelliAgree's contract creation wizard and automated approval workflows. Choose from an impressive library of add-ons, extensions, and integrations to connect IntelliAgree with your everyday tools, like Salesforce and Microsoft Word. You can even set automatic reminders to stay ahead of crucial deadlines. IntelliAgree is also the official CLM sponsor of Spartan, and to date has successfully closed out millions of waivers and agreements with Spartan alone. Visit IntelliAgree.com for your free demo today.
And with my kids, when they would go to bed, my little ritual was I created a story. It was made up on the fly about, I can't remember one of the characters' names, Sandstorm and Grit, maybe. Sandstorm and Grit were their 2 names, and they were from India. And the story just evolved every night. I just kept stretching the truth about how hard they worked, and everything in life went against them, but they fought through anyway. And it went on for years. I need to check and see if they remember any of it. But regarding picking up and putting down the toilet seat, for the first time, because they grew up on a farm like your kids, we're at this bagel place that's like a mobile bagel place, like a food truck. And there's 30, 40 people online. And I got the 2 boys, and I look over, and Charlie pulled his pants down and is peeing while we're standing online. And I'm embarrassed. And I'm wait a minute, it's because we're always in the woods. Mm-hmm. And he, right? So I probably needed number 13, which says, do not piss in front of everybody.
Yeah, that's a good one. My little one does that too, man. In New York City, if we go down to the city, my younger son will literally just walk up to a tree and pull out and let her rip. And I'm like, dude, you can't do that here. We get a ticket, Yeah.
That's awesome. So the kids are thriving. You're on the farm. You moved out of New York. What'd you do with the meatball shop? Meatball shop still running?
Yeah, so Meatball Shop is still running. Thank God it made it through COVID. In 2014, I sold the majority of my equity at Meatball Shop. I really wanted to see if I had what it took to open up another restaurant concept. also, my business partner and I didn't really align with how we saw scaling the business. And instead of like a full implosion, I decided that it would be best for the company and also for my creative career to just see if I could do a second restaurant concept. And so I created another restaurant called SEAMORE'S, which is a sustainable seafood spot. I opened that up in 2015, knew that I'd want to scale it to about 30 million in revenue, and then hopefully sell some equity so that I can go create again. And about a year and a half in, I took on a partner who I knew was a master at scaling restaurants. His name is Jay Wainwright. He's a killer. And I said, hey man, like, I don't want to be the guy to take this from 6 or 7 units to 60 or 70. I would love to develop this thing with you, create real value, and then you can take it from me and scale it. And he said, that sounds like a plan. He loved the brand. And so that's exactly what we did. And he joined me in 2016. We scaled it to 6 stores, and then he bought the majority of my equity. I took both businesses. I took my equity just under 10% so I can get off the liquor license and the leases. Because if you own 10% plus, you have to be on both. And I didn't want to be on both. I wanted to be able to do this maybe 5 or 6 times throughout my career, create a brand, run it, develop it, create value for 5 years, sell some equity, do it again. And my wife wishes I did not do that. My wife wishes that I would just, stick with one, but I really do love creating brand and building teams. And I thrive off of that. And so in 2019, I sold Jay a bunch of my equity and I went out to go create Creatures of Habit, which is the current business I'm the CEO of and developing over the last year and a half. And I took a year off between SEAMORE'S and Creatures, because the pandemic hit and I had to really rethink like what the future of my career looked like. It wasn't going to be in restaurants. I knew I wanted to do something that was in the wellness space that really aligned with my passion for habits and discipline and wellness ultimately. And so I launched Creatures of Habit in 2021, which is it's really a habit lifestyle wellness brand that focuses on nutritional habits that are easily implementable into your life. And we launched with a product called Meal One, which is the first meal that I've been eating every single day for the last 18 years. I am like the true ultimate creature of habit, although I might be in competition with Joe. I am very much a creature of habit. When I find something that works, that makes me feel good, that I know is good for me, I really do stick with it for,
I told my wife, I said, I don't want to play roulette with dinner anymore. I don't want to come home and like, I might get this kind of salad or I might get that kind of salad. I said, could we just pick one salad and I just want it for the rest of my life, the same exact way, the same thing. And so I got a cucumber salad with onions, a little bit of dill. I've now added, which we're going to talk about, some of the sardines and apple cider vinegar. And so I can appreciate, I don't know if those listening or watching I can appreciate getting on something and then just hanging on to it for a ridiculous amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, look, when I made that decision to get sober, a couple of guys, one of our good friends, Marcus, really, I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, but like that guy really saved my life. He was the first person that I was introduced to when I really was ready to ask for help, and he wrote a plan for me. He wrote a fitness plan for me, which included him kicking my ass on a very regular basis at Muay Thai kickboxing ring, and a meal plan. And the meal plan was oatmeal in the morning every single day after a light run, and then chicken and broccoli for lunch and chicken and broccoli for dinner. That was it. So drink as much water as you can handle and eat oatmeal in the morning and then chicken and broccoli for the other 2 meals. And if you could follow that, we'll be all right. And so that's what I did, and so pretty much every single day I have 5 meals. 2 of them are snacks. I start with meal 1, which is obviously the business that I've launched. And then I have a protein snack, like a ready to drink protein, super healthy snack in between meal 1 and meal 2. For lunch every day, I have pretty much chicken, broccoli, greens, and some other veggie. I have my sardines now as my second snack of the day. And then for dinner, similar to you, it's a bit of a wild card when I come home because my wife typically cooks dinner. And I will say that we have a very, very similar salad every night. The protein changes, but it's always a protein that I'm very happy to eat. But my salad is kale, sweet potato, avocado, shaved apple, like sliced apples, and a little bit of quinoa and apple cider vinaigrette. And we've been eating that for literally years.
It's a good thing we're not married, because I would definitely fight you over the salad. I'd be like, I can't do it, Mike. I gotta have my cucumber salad. Kale is just, it feels like I'm eating carpet.
Well, you know what my wife does, which is really, really smart. So my wife came up with this, and I don't know if I can give her all the credit. I think she did learn it somewhere. But what she does is she takes the kale, and then she takes a whole avocado, and she smushes the kale with the avocado and a little bit of lime juice. So she really rubs she creates a dressing with rubbing the lime juice into the kale and massages the kale with the avocado, and it's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So this oatmeal has gotten a little more advanced than when Marcus first introduced you to the idea. You've got this thing called Meal One. It's not just, I call it oatmeal. On my phone, you're called Michael Oatmeal. That's because everybody gets a nickname in the neighborhood where I'm from in Queens, right? So I had to give you a nickname, Mikey Oatmeal. What's in this oatmeal? Because I've been forcing it on my kids since you created it.
So it is. So obviously, over the years of eating oatmeal as my first meal, I've obviously added things to it to make it more optimized, taste better. And for years, what I was doing was I was taking the oats and I was boiling half a cup of oats, whole rolled oats, with about 1.5 cups to 2 cups of water and pink Himalayan salt. So I would cook them down for about 15, 20 minutes, nice and slow. And I would get them to the consistency that I'd want them. It was like a little watery. And I did it that way because when they were done cooking, I would take them and I would take the pot, I'd put it on my counter, and I'd put 2 scoops of protein powder in it. And then I'd mix it. And I'd get like a really, really good consistency between the oats and the protein powder. So I've got now oats, I've got protein powder, and I've got pink Himalayan salt. I'd add chia seeds, flax seeds, and pumpkin seeds to it. And I'd mix that in, right? And then I would pour it into a bowl. I'd put a little cinnamon on it. And that was my meal one every day. On the side of meal one was my probiotic, my digestive enzymes, my omega-3 fatty acids, and my vitamin D3. And so that was pretty much my morning routine. Oats, protein, seeds, pink Himalayan salt, little cinnamon, and the four essential supplements. And when I was thinking about what I was going to do for Creatures, I was on a run upstate, like a long, slow run. And I was like, what am I going to do? And it just all came to me. I said, this is the most authentic thing to me. This is how I start my day nutritionally every single day for years. I'm going to put this into a package, and I'm going to sell my favorite habit of the day. I'm going to sell my favorite habit. It's hard to sell a habit, unless it's drugs or alcohol or cigarettes. It's hard to sell positive habits. Most positive habits take a lot of work and commitment to stick to. And people make billions of dollars telling people that they're going to get 6-pack abs. All you got to do is walk 10,000 steps. You can't sell that stuff. You've got to be convincing. You got to be able to convince people that this is the thing to do. I wanted to say, hey, this is a habit that I can sell you to kickstart your positive habit journey every day. And so I got back home from that run. I told my wife that I was going to do this. She thought I was absolutely out of my mind, going from restaurateur to oatmeal guy. But I put a couple $100,000 into a bank account that night, and I spent the next year working on this brand. And so right now it's got 30 grams of super high quality plant-based pea protein. It's got glyphosate and gluten-free oats, whole rolled oats. It's got pink Himalayan salt, chia seeds, flax seeds, pumpkin seeds. It's got 290 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acids, 2,000 IU of vitamin D3. It's got an unbelievable probiotic in it that withstands high and low temperatures. It's called Bacillus subtilis. And it's got a really, really great digestive enzyme blend that targets all three: fat, protein, and carbohydrates. So it's an all-in-one thing. You make it overnight in the fridge with a little bit of almond milk or water or any kind of milk you want. You make it. It takes 30 seconds before you go to bed. You put it in the fridge. You pull it out in the morning, and it's the best way to start your day nutritionally. Without
we've pushed it on our kids, but we also push it. We have that brand called Highlander, where folks hike for 60 miles and they sleep out in the wild. And all those hikers out there were living on meal one. I think it became meal 1, 2, 3, and 4 for them out there. But they did have sardines. We'll talk about sardines next. And then we got death camp. We got the kids' death camp we put on every year at the farm, and we called it Mush. We called meal 1 Mush. And I got to tell you, they loved the mush. Now, it may be because they were starving, cold, hungry, tired, but they were like lining up for mush, especially when it was done overnight.
Be careful with mush because there is another oatmeal brand called Mush.
Oh, yeah. So we'll stick to meal 1 when we talk to the kids. But anyway, I love it. I love it. I always feel like Christmas when you send me some. All right, but it's missing sardines. Like, I know that sounds disgusting, but let's talk about sardines. I have 300 cans coming to your house.
Well, I can't wait to get that. So I started eating sardines probably about a month ago. I'm always looking for ways to just be better, right? I'm on the constant pursuit of being better. And it's funny, this morning I was driving into the gym and I was thinking to myself, like, is it ridiculous that is it superficial that I'm always trying to be better? Is that something that I need to look at? And then I stopped myself and I said, no, it's not something I need to look at. I want to live life for every ounce of awesomeness it has to offer. I really do. I want to be happy, and I really want to live my life to the fullest. And so, walking through my morning routine, which I want to do after the sardine chat, like I add things to my life that come through trial and error. Somebody will suggest something. I'll try it. If I like it, I'll stick with it. If I don't, I toss it. But I did this thing with this company called Wild Health. And it's
they're a partner of ours. So give them a little plug. Give me 2 more sentences on Wild Health.
Yeah. So Wild Health is another wellness focused company that really does a very unique DNA gene panel. And so they basically send you an at-home test. You spit into this test tube, you shake it up, you send it back to them. And then, I don't know, 3-4 weeks later, they set you up with a doctor and they do a 26-page report on all of your genes. And, none of this stuff is like guaranteed, but based on your genes, they are able to tell you what is good for you and what is not, what you should be doing and what you should not be doing, all in regards to your health. So what kind of fitness you should be doing based on your genes, what sort of nutrition you should be eating based on your genes, what you should not be doing, what you should stay away from. And it was really interesting. And I was on with the doc. I was so into it. I was like, they literally told me so much shit that I just did not know. And he said, based on the amount of exercise and the competitive nature you have, and stepping now, because I just started doing CrossFit about 6 months ago and I want to compete. The doc was like, you need to up your omega-3s seriously, because based on what you're telling me and the shit that I'm seeing here, like, you need more omegas in your life. And so he said the best way to do it is to have a can of sardines every day. Just have a can of sardines every day. Stick to what you're already doing with omegas, because I already do take omegas. But he was like, you should have a can of sardines every day, and then we'll do another test in a few months and we'll see if there's any shift. And so I've been eating sardines every day. I don't have any affiliation with a sardine company. I just choose the shit that I like.
You do now. We're getting you. I told you we're shipping you 300 cans.
Well, I'm excited. I hope they're good, because I have had some sardines that are not palatable. The ones that I have, though, I really love. I really do look forward to it. It's 2:43. I'm actually 13 minutes past my sardine clock. So you know what I'm going to do? While we're talking, I'm going to chow.
I love it.
What I do.
I love it. All right, so the sardines, and they got added. By the way, when I had my panel done, I had a very similar situation. Needed more omega-3s. So that's interesting. All right, let's talk about, what was the other thing you wanted to talk about? Your morning routine. Let's talk about your morning routine.
All right. When I eat these, I feel like a hobo. Like a guy that's jumping from train to train.
That's all right. I think, like, if you go way back, one of the famous Stoic philosophers, Seneca, who was one of the wealthiest people in the world at the time, he purposely, like, he was literally like Warren Buffett as far as wealth goes way back when, 2,000 years ago. He would act like a hobo once in a while, maybe a few times a month, live out in the street, probably eat some sardines and squirrels just so that he could appreciate all the wealth he had. So maybe sardines bring you back to your roots.
I mean, man, I really do love them. Anybody listening, you should just start eating sardines and meal one.
Maybe together. Go ahead.
My morning routine is intense. I've got two ways I look at it: my non-negotiables and then my ideal situation. When I'm at home, I hit my ideal situation 5 out of 7 days. On the weekends, I give myself a little bit of a break. I don't necessarily go through everything, but I'll walk you through my ideal scenario where I really do feel like an absolute Spartan when I'm done with it. And it goes like this. I wake up at 4:45. I don't have an alarm. My body's just sort of in tune for waking up that early. And the first thing I do when I wake up is I beat down any sort of anxiety or stress from the day before with a fat smile, ear to ear, huge smile on my face. I look up at the ceiling. I smile. I walk through a mental gratitude list. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't feel normal. It feels totally forced. But I do it. I've gotten into the habit of doing it because I really do want to feel positivity from the minute I wake up in the morning. And after 15 seconds, I do. So it works. And if anybody's listening, you want to see if it works, I would challenge you to tomorrow morning, wake up, smile from ear to ear, power through the uncomfortability, and at about 10 seconds in, go from a smile to a regular face. So go and feel the difference in your mind. It's massive. And that is how you know that the smile really does propel positivity. So I smile and then I snap out of bed. I get out of bed with intention. I don't like slowly mosey out of bed. Like I sit up, I turn around, I put my feet on the ground and I stand up and I quietly sneak out of the bedroom and I walk downstairs. And right away, I have 22 ounces of water with juice from half a lemon and some pink Himalayan salt. And I drink that pretty quickly. And then I walk into the bathroom. I brush my teeth. I floss my teeth with a water pick, which is a favorite thing of mine now, the water pick. I'm so done with floss. I water pick and I walk through a little bit of a skincare routine that I love doing. I wash my face. I put on moisturizer. I put on the serum. I put on some eye cream. And I started doing that about a year ago. My wife stopped me when we were in Florida, actually, about a year ago. And she said, have you ever put moisturizer on your face? And I was kind of embarrassed. I was like, never. No. Like I wash my face with whatever soap is in the bathtub and that's what I do. And she was like, your face is the only part of your body that is exposed at all times to the elements. And I was like, whoa, all right. And she said, it's the first thing to age. So if you want to kind of slow that process down as you get into your 40s, you might want to just start putting moisturizer on. And that was it. I started doing it. And not only does it help with that arena, but it also makes me feel really good. It makes me feel like I'm doing something nice for myself. And so I do that. And then I was taught to ask the universe for help every single morning when I made that decision to get sober. I was told, like, by Marcus, and a bunch of other people, like, hey, you struggle with asking for help. It's taken you a long time to get to this place. You need to start asking for help first thing in the morning. And so I'm not a religious dude, but I am a spiritual guy. So I drop down to my knees right after I wash my face, and I pray. And I pray for guidance and help. I don't pray for anything material. I just say, hey, please guide and help me. I pray for my family and my friends that they have awesome days. And I also pray for people that, I'm struggling with. Anyone who I got a beef with or I'm feeling resentful towards, I pray for them too. And then right after I pray, I do 50 push-ups straight, chest to floor. And it's a challenge, and I get my blood flowing, and I get a nice chest pump, and I feel like I'm putting in some work immediately. And then I go straight from the push-ups into a little quick stretch practice where I'll do 5 down dogs into up dogs. I'll do 5 cat cows, and then I'll sit in child's pose and stretch out my lats for about 30 seconds. Right after I do that, I walk into the guest bedroom where I've got my red light panel, and I sit in front of the red light for 10 minutes, and I do breath work in front of the red light, and it just makes me feel good. I love doing the breath work, and so I do that. And then right after I do that, I walk back out into the kitchen, and I light a candle real quick, and I do my journaling. And I make a really awesome journal. This is the Creatures of Habit Stacking Journal. It's a great journal planner blend. And so I do that for about 10 minutes. And then I make my way into my sauna every morning. It's already preheated for me. And I sit in the sauna, and that's where I either call Joe, which we've fallen off of. I was calling Joe at 5:20 every single morning for a while, and we got to get back on that. But after I'll call Joe, I'll meditate. I'll meditate for 15 minutes. And then after I meditate, I read. And I get, somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes of reading in. And then I stretch over my legs. So I'll hang over my legs for 3 minutes. And I call it ragdoll, where I just literally hang over my legs and stretch out my posterior chain, my glutes, my hams, my lower back. And then I go straight from that hang into my cold plunge. I sit in there for 5 minutes and freeze my nuts off, force myself. I hate doing it, but I love walking out of it. And so it's a way to force myself into discomfort every single morning. And then right after I'm done with that, I walk over to my mirror, and I have a really nice conversation with myself, look at myself in the eyes. I don't lie to myself. I don't tell myself I'm going to be a billionaire. I don't say I'm going to be rich. I don't say I'm going to, I just say, hey, dude, you're okay, man. You're all right. You're a good dude. You love your family. Your family loves you. Today's going to be an awesome day. And I program myself to have a kind conversation with myself, because it's so easy for us to have negative conversations. It's like the conversation, like, I suck, I'm never going to be able to do this, I'm not good enough. Those are so easy to have. Like, for whatever reason, human condition says that is an easier conversation to have than I am awesome. And so I try to have the I am awesome conversation with myself and rewire the pathways. And then it's about 6:20 at that point. I make my way back into the kitchen. Most of the time, my family is either getting up or they'll be up in a couple of minutes. I start making my coffee, and I hang out with my family. And I hang out with them from 6:30 to 8, when either I take my kids to school or my wife takes them to school. And then I work for about an hour and a half. I drink my coffee. I have a couple of other things that I drink. And if I'm doing a heavy lift day, I will have my meal one then at like 8:15. If I'm not doing a heavy lift day and I'm going to be doing more of like a high intensity day, I will go straight to the gym at 10, and I'll eat my meal one after I train. But I always train at 10, and then I get to my office at about 11:15, and that's my full morning routine.
I love it. I mean, you listen to it and you're thinking, most people that are watching or listening to that are saying, oh my God, I couldn't fit that in a week. And Mike's got it done in an hour. But I love the discipline. I love the fact that the standards don't change. I love the fact that it's like a ritual and it goes on forever. And those that are out there, listen, I found out, I think I told you, I found out a couple of days ago, my buddy got cancer. He wouldn't, you know him actually, Mike. I've had you on the phone with him. He wouldn't listen on some of these rituals, on the commitment towards health and wellness. And then God forbid you wake up and you got, this thing you're dealing with. So I implore anybody out there listening or watching to take their health and wellness seriously. All right. I normally ask right at the end, I say, like, what are 3 things folks can do to optimize their life? But they could take cold plunges. They could eat sardines. They could eat meal 1. They could get serious and, go to bed early. They could do red light therapy. They could go in the sauna. Like, what else?
So something that I think is really groundbreaking for a lot of people that a lot of people don't necessarily think about is I like to have, and it's perfect for your 3. I always like to have a physical challenge that I'm working towards, whether it's a race, whether it's a heavy lift, whether it's how many steps, getting to a consistent amount of steps on a regular basis. I always like to have some sort of a physical challenge. And as I've obviously evolved in my fitness career, I've been a pro bodybuilder. I've competed in Muay Thai. I've run long distance races. And now I'm doing CrossFit. For me, like right now, my physical challenge is I'm competing in the CrossFit Open in a few weeks. And my goal is to get to the quarterfinals. That's my goal. I'm not trying to get to the games. I'm saying I'm going to try to just get to the quarterfinals, right? And so I always like to have a physical challenge in front of me. That challenge could be for someone listening who's just getting going on their journey, right? 30 days of consistently hitting 7,500 steps a day. Challenge yourself physically. It does something when you can do that. How it affects you mentally is massive. Most of the shit that I do physically is in an effort to enhance my happiness, my mental, right? It just is. And so I always like to have a physical challenge. I always like to have a family challenge. So whether that means, my big family goal is ultimately to take 150 days off a year, all focused on my family. That's my goal. That's like my big long term. I want 150 days off a year. That said, it's going to take me time to get there, right? So this year, the goal is I really want to take 2 big vacations, 2 awesome big vacations, 6 months apart. And so I am working on making sure that is something that we have booked, and and my wife and I are planning this out, right?
I hope the end of June death camp is one of them.
Maybe it will be. That sounds like a fun one. I had Joe on the phone with my kids the other day, and I told them we spent like 20 minutes looking at all these kids in this thing, and I got the kids all fired up about it. So I always like to have a physical challenge, a family challenge, and then for me, ultimately, I like to have some sort of a mental challenge. And right now, I hired a coach, so I'm working with a new coach who's got me working on this book that is super difficult. The book is called Healing Your Inner Lost Child. And so it's really having me peel back the onion and work from reading the book into the workbook and really sort of starting to look at some of the stuff that I probably have brushed under the rug. So wellness is a trifecta: mental, physical, spiritual. And at the end of the day, it's human beings we're ultimately put on the planet to procreate, right? That's what we say, survive and procreate. But happiness is really I think the biggest byproduct of self-investment. And so I like to think about if I can have a physical, a family, and a mental challenge that's ultimately covering my spiritual and mental. That is really a great thing that you can start to implement into your life. Just think about 3 different things that you want to challenge yourself with for the next 6 months.
I love it. Well, you're awesome. How do people find you?
You can find Creatures of Habit. It's Creatures with a K. You can go to creaturesofhabit.com and check out what we're doing there. You can follow Creatures of Habit on all social media platforms. And then to follow along with me, I'm at Michael Chernow everywhere.
I love it. All right, Mike. Well, my kids are going to spend some time with you this summer. They're going to run through your morning routine. You're going to give me your kids for death camp. And I guess I'll talk to you tomorrow, 5:20 a.m.
All right, my brother. Thanks, Joe.
You're awesome.
If you're racing against time with your contracts, IntelliAgree will keep you in the lead. Stop worrying about busy work and start focusing on more impactful work. Visit IntelliAgree.com to schedule your free demo and watch how IntelliAgree cuts the contracting lifecycle in half.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Spartan Up Podcast.